Let's take a look now at a very interesting question involving this concept of sigma notation. Let's go and take a look. So what does sigma notation mean? Well, sigma notation means that we are summing up terms. So where we see this sigma is this thing here. Whenever you see this, it means find the sum. Now at the bottom, you'll see it says x equals p up to 2p. So it's saying find the sum from p terms all the way up to 2p terms. Sometimes it'll say find the sum, let's say, from 1 to 9 terms. Now, what is this over here? Everything written after the sigma is a term. It's term n. So these will be your terms of the sequence, and you're summing these terms from p up to 2p. Now, what you've got to learn in these questions is to work out how many terms. What's the number of terms that we are summing? What is n, in other words, in this question equal to? Well, if we are summing from 1 to 9 terms, if you had to write 1, 2, and you went all the way up to 9, how many numbers are you actually summing? The answer is 9. Now, the way to work out that 9, it might seem obvious, it's actually taking 9 minus 1 and then getting a result and adding 1. That's how you get the number of terms. The reason why this can get tricky is like this. Let's say you're summing the second term to the 11th term. How many terms are you actually summing? Are you summing 9 terms or 10? 11 minus 2 gives you the 9, but if you add 1, you'll find that you actually are adding together 10 terms. Because if you had to write 2 dot 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 all the way to 11, and you had to count the number of terms you have, if you include the 2 in the 11, you actually find there are 10 numbers. So the starting point of these questions is to work out how many terms you are actually adding. So in this question, how many terms are we adding? Well, if you start with the top number of 2p and you subtract the bottom one, which is given as p, and then you add 1 to that result, you get 2p minus p is p plus 1. So p plus 1 is your n here. It's the number of terms that we are adding in this sequence. Now, the second step is to go and work out the first 3 terms. So remember, this is your term formula, 3x plus 2, where the first term that we're working out starts with x equals p. So that's telling you to substitute a p wherever you see an x. So let's go and do it. Term 1 equals 3 times, instead of x, we write p, 3p plus 2. Now, if p is your first one to substitute, how will you get the next one? Well, the next consecutive term would be p plus 1 that must be substituted, and then after that p plus 2. So what we're going to do is substitute now a p plus 1 into this t formula. So if you say 3x, 3p plus 1, instead of x we put p plus 1, add 2, you get 3p plus 3 plus 2, which is 3p plus 5. So 3p plus 5 is there for your second term. Similarly, if you now say 3p plus 2, 3 bracket, p plus 2, this time for the third term, plus another 2, that gets you 3p plus 6 plus 2. So that gets you 3p plus 8. So your first 3 terms are 3p plus 2, 3p plus 5, 3p plus 8. You can see that your 3p's are staying the same, but the only number that is changing, 2 to 5 to 8, we are increasing by 3 each time. So your difference here is 3. Your first term we worked out to be 3p plus 2. Your last term is 6p plus 2. And remember, the number of terms n is equal to, let's write this down here, p plus 1. Now this question says, please go and work out the sum of the terms. So the formula we're going to use for the sum of the terms is this abbreviated one, n over 2a plus l. Why can we use this? Because we know the last term. Once you know what the last term is, you can substitute it. And how did you get the last term? Let me go and show you. The last term in this question comes from here. This 2p will be what you need to substitute to get what the last term is. So if any term is 3x plus 2, but we know that the last term, we're summing from p up to that last one, we can replace x for 2p. What do we get? We get 3 times 2p is 6p plus 2. So we know that the last term in the sequence is 6p plus 2. Now we can say sum to n is n over 2a plus l. N is the number of terms, and we worked that out in the beginning. The number of terms in the sequence is p plus 1 divided by 2. A, we know the first term is 3 plus 2, plus the last term we know is 6p plus 2. So we get p plus 1 over 2 times 3p plus 6p is 9p, 2 and 2 is 4. So what's the answer? It's p plus 1 multiplied by 9p plus 4, all divided by 2. And the question says, go and prove that the sum of the sequence is p plus 1, 9p plus 4, all over 2. So we have proved it. That was really an excellent question on the sum of terms with sigma notation. So to try and summarize the tricks here and the method, whenever given a sigma notation question, what do you do? Well, first work out the number of terms. How do you do that? You take the top number of the sigma minus the bottom, add 1, that gets you the number of terms. The next thing to do is go and work out the first 3 terms, term 1, term 2, term 3. In this question, you were told that x was p, so we substituted p to get the first term. Then we substituted p plus 1 to get the second, p plus 2 to get the third, because those are your 3 consecutive terms. Then go and work out your last term. How do you work out the last term? You take that top number, you substitute it into your t formula, that gets you your last term. And the final step is to work out the sum of the series by saying n over 2 bracket a plus l. You know your n, you know your a, you know your l. All you need to do is substitute. And that's it.